Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome back. So today is the third day, workshop 3 for data analysis workshop. Thank you for taking time out and being here today. I will be posting the sign-in link. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. So if you have any question, please leave your question at the chat box. Okay, so now I will pass the session to Mr. Chiu.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Okay, so I will share the screen. Okay, and then we will continue back with where we stopped yesterday. So yesterday we basically discussed until pivot table on the Excel part, and then for the last 10 minutes, so we go through a little bit of storytelling, like what we do after we import the data and so on. So one of the key thing here is that we want to understand the data. Of course, understanding the data is not like included in this workshop, because every different set of data, you will have different characteristic, right? So when you have the data, or when you receive the data, first thing, of course, you need to understand the background. So depending on, like, if you are dealing with, like, for example, even though in the same or similar type of data, you also need to do some background study. So for example, if let's say you are trying to do some analysis for Shopee sales of, let's say, keyboard and mouse, right? So we need to understand that, okay, this data is from electronic section, and then they are keyboard and mouse. So usually keyboard mouse, maybe you won't change it every year, right? Under normal keyboard and mouse. We are not talking about like gaming mouse or gaming keyboard and those kind of things. So, but if let's say you are also doing, at the same time, doing analysis for another shop in Shopee. So for example, maybe, what is that? Maggi Mee, right? So instant noodles. So the sales of instant noodles, all these packaged food. So you may realize that their pattern is slightly different, even though you have the same type of data. That means you have the date, you have the sales, you have the category, and so on. But because they are different product, so the way you do analysis, you need to keep this thing in mind. Okay, so understanding the data, of course, is the first thing. Then once you understand the whole data set, you know, like which column is representing what item, then you can start to do some cleaning, because sometimes your data may have some data entry error. So for example, 1006, so you the data entry may accidentally type it as 11006, something like that. So of course we cannot identify everything, but we can try to see what are the not so reasonable records. So we will look at that first, starting by removing duplicates. So that is the first thing. You may want to check, is there any duplicates record, right? So that is the first thing that you can check. So to remove duplicates in Excel, you can directly use the features or the function button. Okay, so you can also group, ungroup the data for you to assist you to look at large data set. Well, the large here is not really very large. Okay, so now we look at this example. So this example is a small data set actually. So you can see you have only like 6 columns from column C to column H. So the date here is, this is a sales data. So if you look at that column by column, although no description, but we can read like one by one. So we have the date, state, category. So basically it's the sales data from different states for different categories, and then each categories have different products, right? So, and then over here we know that, okay, 1st January 2012, in police we sold 5 items, this tablet. Each of them, the unit price is 198. Again, this is simulated data or synthetic data. So you can see that the price, the number is not so reasonable. Okay, but that is the simulated data. So you can also see that the workstation, the desktop, is like we sold 1 unit and 300 ringgit only. It won't be so cheap. i7, right? Okay. So anyway, this is simulated data. So this column we cannot do much. Of course, when you get real data, you may want to check some reasonability. So for example, you may think that, okay, 1 mouse should be cheaper than 1 laptop. Should be lah. Okay. So that is something you can check first. Okay. So first thing, you can check whether there is any duplicates. Second thing, you can try to see what is the data inside this table. Okay, so one of the way to roughly see what you have in this table is that you can actually insert a filter. Okay, so filter is not here because that is actually not a part of the task, but you insert a filter for you to see what you have in the data is one of the way. So for example, if I go to Home tab, right? So on this part here, Home, and then you can see filter is here. Let me see if I can zoom in. All right, so filter is on the right-hand side, somewhere on the right. So you can insert a filter, or if let's say you don't want to insert it here, filter is also inside this data tab, and then it's here, somewhere in the middle. Okay, so as you can see from here, the ribbon here, if you talk about Home tab, it is actually the buttons that Excel or Microsoft things that most people will use quite frequently. So they put it here. That's why sort and filter is here. And at the same time, they are also in the data tab. Okay, sort and filter. Okay, so you can use either one. They work exactly the same. So one of the way is we can select the whole table here. And then of course, whether you select or not is not too important, but because different versions, the algorithm may be slightly different. So of course, newer version, their algorithm is better. So you want Excel to exactly get exactly what you want, the range. So we can click at C9, which is the date here, and then okay, again I forgot to show me the key to show this thing. Okay, right, so we can put it here, then this one, let me move it elsewhere. Okay, so let me put it here. Okay, or the escape. So I click C9 and then Control Shift to the right. I mean, Control Shift and then I press the keyboard key right 1 time. Okay, so you can see Control Shift right. Then I selected the whole header. And then now I press Control Shift down again 1 time only. So I have Control Shift down. So I selected the whole table. Usually in this situation, you scroll a little bit to check, is it really whole table? Okay, so because why? Because let me just do some illustration. This one you don't have to follow. Because Control Shift direction, right? So left or right, up or down, it actually stops at the blank cell. That means you see row 30. Let's say if I delete this row, right? So I delete this one. Then we go back to the C9. Control Shift right and then down. So it seems like I have selected the whole table, but I have to scroll a little bit to realize that there is a blank cell here. Okay, so you need to be slightly more careful when you select a table in this way. So of course, you can also do it like Control A to select the whole table. Okay, so it depends on like your habit. So usually I use Control Shift plus the direction because I can move around very quickly. Okay, so that means let me illustrate. If I want to go to the bottom right of this table, so what do I do? Control without the shift, Control down. I will go to the last row, scroll a little bit, you see, and then Control right. I can go to the bottom right. If I want to go back to the C9, so Control left up, I will go back to C9, right? So right down, I can go back. So Control Shift plus the direction is actually very useful keyboard shortcut. Of course, if you want to go back to cell A1, Control Home, you can go back to cell A1, okay? So you can always scroll back the top row. Of course, if there's let me use this one. Freeze pane here, you see when I scroll, these few rows are always here. So when you have freeze pane, so Control Home does not bring you to A1, but bring you to the, let me illustrate, Control Home, right? So it brings you to A6. Basically, it's the first row of the freeze pane. Okay, you see, no matter where I am, Control Home always bring me to here. That is when you have freeze pane. If you have remove the freeze pane like this one, then Control Home will always bring you to A1. Okay, now back to this one, you can use Control A to select the whole table. You can use like Control Shift right down also. Okay, so once we have selected this table, you can insert a filter. So reason why we insert a filter is to check to look at the data first. It's not that we want to do a filter. Okay, so you can click here, filter. Okay, and then if you scroll back, I'm using mouse now. You can see that you have one small button on the bottom right of each of the header. You can actually click this one and look at the filter. And then when you don't want to see that, press escape, or you click one more time also can. Let me zoom out. Okay, right. So now one more time is that once you have selected the table, if you want to use keyboard shortcut to add a filter, you can use alternate AT. Okay, so if you want to learn Excel and then you think that, okay, Excel is something very interesting, you want to learn and then you want to be able to perform certain tasks very quickly. So that one need a lot of practices, but basically you need to learn up all these keyboard shortcut. So one of the trick that I can let you know is that if you are not too sure what is the keyboard shortcut to add a filter or to remove a filter, what should you do? You press the alternate key on your keyboard, the ALT, the two keys beside your space bar. Okay, so let's say if I press alternate, we see what happens. I press one time. So you see, this part here, it does not capture the alternate because it is a special key. Okay, but you can see that after I press alternate, I have all these hint like F, H, N, P, M, A, and so on. It's a bit small, but you press alternate on your keyboard, you can see the same thing as well. So basically, that is how you want to link it to. So for example, if I want to go to Home tab here, right? I don't have to use my mouse to click. I press H. Okay, and then I want to copy. I press C. Of course, copy you can use Control C, is faster. And then you want to align to the left-hand side, let's say. So align left is AL, so you press AL. So you see everything aligned to the left-hand side. If I want to align them to the right-hand side, alternate HAR. So I align everything. Let's scroll a little bit. So align back to center, okay, or Control Z to undo. Okay, right? So that is what we have here. So in order to insert filter, you can press alternate, go to the data tab, which is A, and then you can see that filter is T, sort is SS, right? So press T. Okay, let me do one more time. Alternate AT, right? So or alternate AT again. So to insert or to remove the filter. Okay, so that is some basic of this keyboard shortcut. Now we come to here, we can see column by column because this one is not too having only 6 columns. Click at this one, you can see that, okay, again, you can see that once I click at the button drop down list, I see this part, I have 3 years here. So depending on version, your version may not group the year or the dates together. That is fine, doesn't really matter. So we can see that the data seems like 3 years, but actually it's 2 years plus 3 months because 2014 only until March, right? So, okay, seems okay. Every year, every month is there, right? So January to December, and then of course you can check 2012 also same thing. and then every year you have like every day. So of course you don't really need every day to be there, but you have like quite reasonable this one. Every month is there. You have 2 years plus 3 months, so it seems okay. So we can move to the next column. Okay, so this is one of the way how we do some basic check first before we actually continue to clean up the data. So you can see, okay, I have quite many states here. Of course, you can check if it is your shop, you know how many branch you have. So I have 4 categories. The products is here, and then the count. So the count here, you may want to check some reasonable checking. So if suddenly you have 55, you may think that 55 is not correct. Okay, so sometimes people buy laptop, they won't directly buy 50 laptops from you if let's say they are not a reseller. Okay, so you check at the number, okay, 1 to 5, also reasonable. Unit price, so you have 150 until 390. Okay, so if that is the range of your products, then that is okay. Okay, so this is the first way you can look at how your data is being recorded or how your data looks like. And then once you have this one, of course, you can remove the filter. Click this button again to remove it. Okay, so if you don't want to remove, that is also fine actually. Now, this table, I purposely added a few duplicated rows so that we can practice how to remove duplicates. So let me go to the bottom here. So you can see that when I scroll to the last few rows, I realized that this is 30th March. But then after 30th March, I have like 21st, 24th, and 28th March. Okay, so if we scroll up, you can see that it is actually in increasing order, 2012, and then slowly increase the date, right? Until like maybe, if you scroll slowly, then until 2013, 2014, March 30th. But then after 30th March, I have 3 more rows here. So basically these 3 rows could be due to a few things. First thing, duplicates. Second thing, it was not recorded, and then after that, they added it back, right? So when you receive the data, we look at it in this way because we see that the data has some pattern, and then some of the data points or some of the records are not behaving according to the majority, following majority. It could be normal, it could be duplicates. I mean, these 3 rows could be correct one. These 3 rows could be duplicates. These 3 rows could be some missing records that the admin add in afterwards. So that's why you can see that the date is different. But that is why, I mean, the date is at wrong location. So we check a little bit and see, you can see that 28th March here is Terengganu laptops and ThinkPad and 5258, right? So 28 is the same as this one. So you realize that, it is a duplicate. It is a duplicate. Let me minimize this one, right? So you can see that it is a duplicate here. So we can actually remove one of them because you don't want both of them to be recorded. So, but then this part, you have only 3 rows. It is very easy to check all 3. But imagine you don't know whether any duplicates records here or not, right? So how do we check that? We use the remove duplicates feature, which is this one. So you can actually follow the steps here. This part here, the box, I think is I circled the wrong box. So it should be the remove duplicates, not text to column. Text to column is the first technique we learned yesterday. Okay, so it should be the remove duplicates. So step 1, step 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that is remove duplicates. Now again, select the whole table first, and then go to data, remove duplicates. Okay, right. So let me zoom in and then we can see. Right, so I select the whole table, go to data tab, click this one. So you can see that Excel will be able to recognize all the headers. You have to tick this one. If you untick this one, they will become column C, D, E, F, G. You don't want that to happen because that one is your header, right? So you want to take this one. So what are these things here? What are these things here? So basically, this one is just to say that, okay, how many conditions you want to check? Okay, so for example, if let's say I copy and paste it to a new worksheet, and then I will demonstrate what is this thing to you. Okay, so this part again, you don't have to follow. It's just a demonstration on what I meant by condition. Okay, so data and then remove duplicates. So at this point, let me put it here. Okay, right. So zoom in. So remember just now when we use the filter, we realized that category has 4 categories. But if you want to get the 4 categories, usually we don't do copy paste. I mean one by one. So you can use at once filter, which you can actually check how to get unique records. If you are using 365 Excel, you can use the unique function. Okay, otherwise you can also use remove duplicates. Let me show you this thing. So check data has headers, and then condition here is basically like this. I only check this category. You can unselect all actually. Okay, so I selected this category, and then I click OK. What will happen to my data? So you can see that most of them are removed. Only 4 remains. So why only 4 unique record? Because you only check the column of category just now, right? So let's zoom out and see. So the data actually is not duplicate, most of them, but because you only check this one, so this is duplicate. Okay, so like if you have student ID or invoice number, then you can only use 1 column. In our case here, using 1 column, you will realize that it is not enough actually. So what if we use more columns, right? So illustrate one more time. So over here, now instead of using just the category, we use states and category. So what happened? Category, you have 4, right? So states, let's say if you have 10, you expect 40 rows, 10 times 4. So of course, states here should be 13, if I remember correctly. Okay. Uh, 15, including Labuan and KL. Okay, so including Labuan and KL, 15 times 4, you get 60 unique records, right? So why 60 unique record? Because now they are capturing two things: police, tablet. So this one will be one record. You won't find this combination in this list anymore. Okay, Kedah laptop, Kedah workstation, Kedah the other category and so on. Okay, so that is what we have here. So in our case, basically we want to make sure that everything is selected. Okay, so let's close this one. Back to here, select the whole table, data tab, remove duplicates, and then make sure you select all, right? So default, it should be like this, then just click OK. So you can see that 3 rows will be removed. 10. Okay, so the last 3 rows, and then somewhere in the middle, you have another 7 rows. Okay, so that is what we have here. So you can see you can remove the duplicates quite easily. So this is the first thing that you can actually use. Okay, so to remove the duplicates. After that, once you have cleaned up the data, okay, no more duplicates. So you want to view the data, right? So just now we mentioned you can use filter. And sometimes if let's say your table is just too many columns, like you have 20, 30 columns. Okay, so you may be realizing that a bit hard for you to scroll left and right just to see every column, because sometimes you don't really need those columns. So for example, if you don't need category, so you can delete the column. You can hide the column, right? So right click, you can have hide the column. That means hide means it is still there, but we can't see it, right? So I can hide it in this way. Of course, to unhide it, you have to select the 2 columns at the side and then right click unhide again. Okay, so I can delete this column as well, but once I delete, I cannot like insert it back. Okay, so usually we don't delete original data. We will talk about that later also. So usually we leave original data untouched. You clean it up in another place. Okay, right. So that is like 2 common ways. One is delete, one is to hide. Another common way is that you can use group ungroup button. So what is this group ungroup button? So we will talk about this thing now. Group and ungroup. So group ungroup is actually here. Okay, so you can select column F to G and then data tab group or data tab ungroup. So we should see what is this thing. Okay, so you see we select column FG and then we go to data and then group is somewhere here on the right hand side. Okay, so you can click at this one. Okay, you realize something like push down, right? So that is because you have 2 levels now. Okay, so let me zoom in. So I have already clicked the group part. So if you have also clicked that, then you realize that if you scroll up to the headers, you realize that got extra space and then 1 minus sign here. So this is basically group and ungroup. If you click this one, you see column G and F and G will be collapsed. It's like hidden, right? So you can hide and unhide very easily. Okay, so why do we want to do it in this way? Because you will have like level. So the difference between this one and hide and unhide is that you have level. Okay, so the level here is like you can click level 1, level 2. So the number is larger means you look at it in more detail. So you unhide more rows, more columns. You can also do it with the rows. Okay, so it's the same thing. Okay, so that is for the grouping part. And of course, if you want to remove this one, you can ungroup it. Okay, so it is not necessary that you group only one time. You can group multiple times. So let me show you. So for example, I group like FG also. So I group it, and then let's say column D, I also group it. Okay, right. So now you can see if I click level 1, just now column D and FG will be hidden. Column 2, FG will be shown. Level 2, sorry, not column 2, level 2. Level 3, D will be shown. Okay, so if you need like different level, you can actually click group ungroup. So it will be easier for you to see, okay, I have this one, this category. Of course, this is unit price. Usually you see the total, right? So you may want to create one total for the one column for the total. And then this one. Okay, so it depends on like level. So you think, okay, I want to see further which state, and click this one. So this is group and ungroup data that will be sometimes useful when you want to look at data that has a lot of columns, or sometimes the data you want to group them together, like all the police, you want to group them together, something like that. Okay, but now let me just ungroup all this first, because it will take up the space in the screen, so that I ungroup it so that we can see more rows together. Okay. Column D. Okay, right. So now we talk about this group ungroup data. We want to look at subtotal. So what is this subtotal function? You need to be slightly careful when you want to use this subtotal. So don't directly use it. Make sure you sort the data first. Otherwise, it would be very it could be very slow, or it could be slightly slower. So let me demonstrate why we need to sort it. So this part you don't have to follow first. So let me copy this one to a new workbook and show you what if we don't sort it, right? So this is the original data. We can insert a subtotal under data tab. So what is the purpose of the subtotal is that we want to create a total so that we see what is the total sales for police, for Kedah, and so on, for example, right? So you click this subtotal. Okay, so remember this one you don't have to follow because I haven't sorted this table. So let me zoom in and explain to you the interface first. Subtotal. At each change in this one, this is actually the columns, right? So state. So what is the meaning here? That means every time you go through the column vertically down, the state change, then I add a total. The state change, I add a total. So like Penang, 3 rows, and then change to Kedah 2 rows, right? So after 3 rows, I insert a total. After another 2 rows, I insert another total. Okay, so the function you can change to like average, sum, or count. So we use sum would be easy. So what you want to sum? You want to sum the unit price and also the count. Let's say you can sum up the two. Okay, but of course, all these are text. Date you can sum, but it doesn't give you any meaning. Okay, and then you can click OK. Okay, so you can see that this cursor is rotating like this, means the calculation is being carried out, right? So it will take quite some time because I'm running on a virtual machine now, so it doesn't the performing computing performance is not that great. Okay, so you can see that the reason why we need to insert, we need to sort before we insert the subtotal is because of this thing. First thing, it will be very slow. Second thing, what you need or what you get is actually incorrect. So while waiting for this one, then let me see any questions. Why do we need to take my data as header? Okay, so this one should be for just now, the remove duplicates. Okay, so this one, if you don't tick, I think that is also fine. But the reason why you want to tick it is that if you tick the my data has header, right? So the top row will not be considered into the operation. That means when you remove the duplicates, so let's say if you have exactly the same thing inside, the top row will not be removed. Okay, so it will be always there. So unless you are very sure that your headers, after you add everything together, it is unique, then it won't be removed also. Otherwise, it may be accidentally removed, although the chance is very low for this case. Okay, no problem. Okay, done. Right, so so you can see that every time there is a change in the data, like police change to Kedah, Kedah change to Penang, Penang change back to Perak, Perak to Selangor, Selangor to, and so on. So they insert a total. It is not insert a total for Penang, Kedah, and so on. You see Kedah is here. Kedah appears earlier also, right? So that is why you don't want to have this kind of subtotal here. And then when you have the subtotal, you see that this 1, 2, 3 is on the left hand side. Now it's also the group and ungroup. So you can see the level. Grand total, total for each of the state change. And then this is like everything. Okay, so we sort the data first and insert so Excel will insert the formula for you. So reason why it is so slow, because every change here, they have to insert a new row and then insert the function, right? So a lot of work. So Excel will be a bit slow. So now this table, we sort it first. How to sort this table? We need to know like what you want to do on the subtotal with the subtotal. So we want to get a total for the states, for example. So you sort it by states. So select the whole table and then home tab, and then sort is here. You can also go to data tab. So usually I will use custom sort. This one, the third one. Because using custom sort, you have more controls. Okay. So back to this one again, you can see on the top right corner, my data has header again. So this one you need to tick it, because otherwise Excel will sort the header together. That means whether your data, if you tick this one, Okay, let's see a little bit. Okay, so you can observe here, right? So this is selected because my data has header. This one is not selected. That means we are telling Excel that, okay, you sort everything, including this yellow color line. And because Excel cannot recognize the formatting. If we view this thing from a data point of view, right? So whether I bold the data, whether I color it, whether I change the font color, they are still the same data, right? So product, let's say the word product, I bold it, underline it, italic it, change it to yellow color, it is still product. So it won't change. Only what it changes is how we see it and we feel, nicer this way. Okay, so it's like a visualization kind of things. So when you talk about algorithm, when they read it, they don't read the formatting. Of course, you can write your own algorithm to read the formatting as well. But by default, Excel is not doing that. So if you untick this one, you see Excel will take this product into all the states together. So when you sort it, the top row will be sorted. If you want top row to be at the top, you tick this one. So you observe this part, it will move down. Okay, so Excel will remove, like push down a little bit so that they don't touch your header. Okay, and then you sort by state from A to Z. Okay, as long as we group all the same state together, then you can actually sort it already. So if you want to do a further sorting, you can add a more levels like this one, and then sort it by category. Okay, so you can also do something like that. So in this case, Excel will sort all the states like start from A, B, C, and so on. And then each of the A, they will sort based on the category from A to Z also. Okay, so then we click OK. Actually, this case here, you sort one time, one level will be enough. Okay, so that would be what we have here, starting from Johor, and then after that would be another state, right? So where is it? Kedah and so on, HIZKL, right? So now once we have this one, we select the whole table, we can now insert the subtotal. So under the data tab, insert the subtotal. So this would be, this part you can follow. So sort the data according to the states. Category is not compulsory. And then this part, don't directly click OK. We need to ensure that at each change in state, because if you change to dates, right? So it will be like every time a new date change, then they insert subtotal. You don't want that. And then what you want is the count, right? Usually you have a total price, so you may want to add one column for total price also. But we forgot to do that, so we will just proceed with this one, and then click OK. Okay, you see now this thing is much faster. Why? Because it only insert 15 subtotal and one grand total. Just now, because we haven't we didn't sorted the table, so when you insert the subtotal, every change they have to insert. So there are a lot of the rows. Okay, right? So let's zoom out and see. Again, you have 3 levels here. If I want to see grand total, I just click this one. Okay, so when you see this hash here, it is actually the column width is not enough. So you can just drag a little bit. Okay, so you can see that total of the 2 years and 3 months, we sold out near to 10,000 items. Okay, so which state has the highest? Click level 2. Kedah has the highest sales. Okay, so the rest is actually quite how to say, quite consistent, around 400. So this 700 is also a little bit high, but the rest are around 400. So there's no too small number, right? So around 400, and then this is 200, a little bit, a bit low, but still okay. So there's no 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 like that. Okay, so this is very big. The count, the amount also same. Okay, so you may want to check, or if that say that is your business, you will probably know, yes, my business in Kedah is always the best. Okay, so that is one of the things that you can check. Okay, so you can further click. Okay, if you want to investigate, let's say only Kedah, you can click here instead of 3. Okay, so if you click 3, you expand everything. So you may not want to see everything. So you click 2, you only want to see the breakdown of Kedah, right? So you click here, the plus here. This is on the features of group and ungrouped data. Okay, so it's the same thing as what we learned earlier. Then you can see all the Kedahs is here. I mean, all the Kedahs record. Okay, if you go up further, then you see all the Johor will be grouped. So you only see the total. You won't see the rest, the individual records. Okay, so after you check, okay, everything is fine, then you can click like 2 again. Okay, so that is how you want to view the data and then do some prelim analysis on the subtotal and so on. But usually, if you want to create something that is dynamic enough, dynamic means that next time you paste the data, all your formula automatically recalculate. You won't use these subtotal features, because subtotal features, as you can see, when you have new data coming in, you have to redo this thing again. So usually you will use, like, for example, period table, sum if function, and so on. Okay, so we will look at that in the last part of this workshop. So that is the subtotal function that we have here. This sentence you can ignore, so it shouldn't be here. Okay, I forgot to delete this one. Okay, right. So any questions so far for these remove duplicates, group, ungroup, and subtotal? Okay. So if no question, then I will proceed to the next one. Any question, you can leave a message in the chat box. Okay, so over here, now we look at after we have cleaned up the data on a basic cleaning, like removing duplicates, look at the subtotal and so on. Sometimes you may realize that, my data has some outlier. So what is the outlier? Outlier is like this case here. This is an outlier, right? Because most of them is actually around less than 1,000, and most of them around 300 to 400, around there. So you have something that is like 10 times larger. So this is an outlier. So of course there are a lot of what is that called? Statistic techniques to determine or to detect or to identify the outlier. But over here we will use something that is more intuitive. That means based on our intuition, we look at that. Okay, this seems like outlier. Outlier means something that is not so same with the group. Doesn't mean that the data is incorrect. So outlier does not mean that the data is incorrect. So just like for example, when we talk about like result of a subject. So most of the students score, let's say 80 marks, and another student, only one student score 100 marks. The other 99 students score, let's say 70 marks. So the 100 marks is outlier. When we talk about this thing from a statistic point of view, it is an outlier, but it is not incorrect. Okay, so incorrect records and outlier are different. Okay, incorrect could be like, for example, total mark is 100, but then we accidentally key in it as 1,000. That one is incorrect because it cannot be 100. So this one, we are not saying that it cannot be, the sales cannot be 400,000 or the 4,000 items sold. We are just saying that, okay, this branch is performing very, very good. Okay, so it is an outlier. So it depends on the case, of course. Sometimes the outlier, you may want to treat them separately. Sometimes you may want to remove them. Sometimes you may want to just leave it there. So it depends on the situation. Sorry. So now we look at this example here. This is a data. It's actually a real data from United States, and then customer data. Okay, of course, it's not in Malaysia, but I think it's also something that we can actually look at. Okay, so we have this table here, and then this is the original data. So sometimes we want to keep the original data untouched. That means we keep original data as it is. So if you receive the data from other sources like your friend sent to you or the other company sent to you, you copy paste or you keep the data in your email or in another folder, then you start to do cleaning. So that anything happen, you still have the original data to refer to. Okay. So now what we do here is that we can actually copy the whole table, right? Control A or Control Shift right down or left down right also can. Okay, so you can copy the whole table, paste it to this cleaning part. It's a blank worksheet. So we copy paste here, then only we clean it at that side. This part we leave it untouched. Okay, so let me copy first and then paste it here. All right, so now I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, so there's a few things here. You see, of course, we talk about the formatting first. First thing, you can see that the number, you cannot see like everything. So why is it so? Because the column width is not enough. So remember just now, we have also something similar. We say that when you have a lot of hash, something like that, column width is not enough. So you may be a bit curious, column is too small, basically. So column too small, why this case I get all the hash here? This case, I still can see some part of it. That is because the different data types back to the content or the concept we talked about yesterday morning. So when it is a text, you can see that it will be, you still can see part of it truncated. But if it is number, let's say this column, I make it smaller. You can see the income, I still can see COM, but the numbers all become hash. So these are numbers, these are text. Okay, so same thing here, this SSN, you can see that it is a text. That's why no matter how how small it is, it won't become hash. Only number will become that in that way. So to resize the column, you can move your cursor to the middle of the two. So you want to resize B, you move it to the right hand side of B. You see it becomes something like this. Click and drag. Okay, left click, of course. So you can also double click. So what is the purpose of double click? Double click means if you let me zoom out and then you can see like this one. I move to the right hand side of the column F, double click. If you auto adjust to the minimum width, that can show everything. Okay, so that is called auto fit. Okay, so now I just want to resize this thing a little bit. Okay, so you can actually resize all the columns together. Like I select everything like this. So I click one of the column, I resize. So every column will have the same width. Okay, so if I double click, every column will auto fit. Okay, so that is on column width or column size. Okay, so one more things to highlight is that why when it is a text, there is no hash. Why when it is a number, you see the hash? Okay, so the reason here is because something like this, if let's say we talk about like this is a pencil, right? So if the column width is not enough, let's say I have something here, this is a pen. So you see, column width not enough, you still can see something. You know that, okay, this is something. You don't know what is that, but you can double click to see that. Imagine if it is a number 60,000. Okay, so if the column width is not enough, what will happen? We mentioned that it will become hash because Excel don't want to create any ambiguity. That means 60,000, imagine if you cut 1 0, becomes 6,000. It's a lot of difference, especially when you deal with like, well, you deal with anything, 60,000 and 6,000 is a huge difference, right? So that's why you can, Excel won't show you like truncated here, like 6,666. it won't show you this one. It will directly show you hash, so that you know that, okay, you cannot read anything. If you want to read something, make it larger. Okay, so that is the reason why the difference between text and number. Okay, so back to this one, I need to auto fit everything. Okay, so first thing, we use back the techniques that we learned just now. We insert a filter. You can use alternate AT, or you can also use the filter from here. Insert a filter so that you can click and see what is the number. Okay, right, so let me zoom in and we go through one by one. So when you click here, I shouldn't zoom in, too big. So you can see the customer ID here, or customer. You have from a number 1 to 1,500. So it seems okay, reasonable, right? So it's continuously, of course, we don't know if any number is missing, but it seems okay. We roughly scroll 1 to 1,000, it seems okay. So we just move on to the next column. SSN, what is this thing? We need to understand the column first. Social security number. You can view this thing as like, what is that called? IC number. Okay, so it should be unique to each customer. So click on this one and see what is there any weird number. Okay, so of course we are not too sure about how they make the 001 500 and something, but they looks okay. Looks okay. Okay. So of course, one of the things that you may want to check is that you want to ensure that this thing has no duplicate also. Okay, so why? Because every customer, this SSN should be unique. Okay, but anyway, we will move on to the next column first. We see any outlier, any number that is not so reasonable. So the age also, you click at it, you see about 40. The smallest is 41, the largest is 9,999. This is age. You see, this is not reasonable, definitely. This is something. Okay, so we want to check this one. Just look at the row first. You can tick this one so that you can untick all, and then scroll down. I just want to look at what is this thing, and then click OK. Okay, quite a lot, huh? So all these are 9,999, the age. Of course, it won't be like this. You have like how many rows? 18 rows. How do I know it is 18 rows? It's on the bottom left. If you zoom in, you see, out of 1,500 records, 18 rows are having age 9999. Okay, so usually we try to understand the system. If this is a data sent to you by other people, you can always check with them. But usually number like 99, 999, 9,999. So this kind of number usually means others. Okay, so like for example, you may have like maybe they ask you to click what is your occupation, right? So the first one, occupation, maybe is like student. Then second one is like teacher, and then third one is like others. Okay, so if you translate it to code, then maybe this could be 0, 1, and 99. So it could be like that. Okay, so over here, this part, then you realize that, hey, I have 9999. Reason, it could be due to, because we are not too sure, but at least for those recorded, we haven't seen anyone recorded in the records having near to 10,000 years old, right? So more than 100, we do have. 99 years old, we do have. So using this this way, 1 year old, 2 years old, and then 99-year-old is possible, but it's not too possible already. So it could be due to not others, right? But maybe it's NA, not available or unknown. Okay, so that means the customer forgot to never mention what is their age or something like that. Okay, so this could be unknown. Okay. So that is the first thing. Second thing, now we know that, okay, you have something here, right? So let me highlight it and then so that we remember. the region, 4 region, west, south, north, east. Okay, credit card user 01. Okay, so usually 0 means not a credit card user. 1 means he or she is a credit card user. And you see small green color triangle on the top left corner. Reason for this thing, again, it is a number being stored as a text. Okay, so if you click at this one, you can see that this is a number stored as a text. So you may not want this thing to happen, change it to number. So usually you want to change it to number. Okay, so let me just change the whole column. So select whole column, click at this first row, and then Control Shift down. Select the whole column, and then go to the escalation mark on top here, click and convert to number. So you convert the whole column to number first. Why you want to convert it to number? So that if you need to do any analysis later on, you can do like count if, sum if equal to 0 or something like that. Okay, so look at the income again. Okay, so income also having some issue, right? So you have 22 USD or 22,000, it depends. Okay, so but most of them is like 30,000, 40,000. A lot of them are in this range. So this one, why you have 22? So imagine in this way, different people when they fill up the form. So this could be from physical form. That means they write it on paper. Okay, so what happened? Different people may interpret this thing differently. So I may interpret, oh, you ask me how many thousand I earn a year. So I write down 22,000. So some people here, or most people may be interpreted as, oh, you ask me how much I earn per year. So I earn 45,600 per year. So I write down 45,600. So in the paper or in the system, when we write down, these things could be referring to 22,000, 25,000, 43,000, right? So seems quite reasonable if you change it to 1,000. So we will clean up this data later until 151, and then 9,999. This could be again unknown. This could be again unknown. Okay, and then we continue to scroll down. This is 20,000, 40,000, 60, 100, and then until the last one, 160,000. Okay, all of them looks okay, except for the first few rows, right? 22,000 until this 9,999. So we want to clean up this one later also, but before that, we look at the whole column, all the columns first. Okay. Then we look at this part again. How many items we purchased, right? So this one, same thing. You can see there is a 0. That means this customer never purchased from our store. And also 9,999. So this one is like not available also. So we will see this thing again. So let's see the 0 first. So why do we want to see the 0? Because you want to ensure that those that has 0 purchases, amount spent should be 0 also. Let's see. Okay, looks good. So the 0 is okay. You don't have to clean it. If imagine the purchases is 0, but amount is 1,000, what happened? Something is not right, correct? So in this case, it looks okay. So you don't really have to bother about the 0 first. Click select all, click OK. Go to the amount part. I want to look at the 0 also. Make sure everything here is 0. Okay, because why? Because if I have purchased something but amount spent is 0, it's also not reasonable. So you want to check this thing. So you can see doing this kind of data cleaning process is quite time consuming sometimes, unless you not understand the data very well. Okay, so but this is the very crucial part, because any model, whether you talk about the simple mean, median, average, or you talk about the slightly advanced like regression, time series, and so on, or you talk about something that is very famous these few years, big data, data science, machine learning, deep learning, all these things. When you put in the data that is incorrect, they give you the output that is incorrect as well. So basically, in statistics, people always call this thing as garbage in, garbage out. right? So we don't want this thing to happen. So cleaning data is a very important work. Okay, so anyway, back to this one. So we select all here. So we make sure that when this is 0, this is 0. So you check both sides. Okay, that is fine. Now purchases here, you have 9,000 something. So we want to check this thing also. See how is the amount spent. Okay, so not available also. It looks okay, right? So I mean, the number is not okay, but it's reasonable because this is not available. So this number is not available, same as the 0. So we want to check on the other side also. Amount spent, there's no, until this one, 9,000. Okay, everything is 9,999. So they looks okay. Okay, so now we know that things that we need to clean up is age and income. These two, right? We want to clean up this one. So usually what I do is that if I clean up the data, I will highlight the cell in Excel, of course, so that if anything happen, I can check back. Okay, so okay, before I proceed, let me see. Okay, no question. Okay, so how do we clean up the data? So if we look at this one, certain things that you can use is like these are some regression things, slightly more advanced. Certain things you can use is like you insert with the mean, mode, median, or 0. So 0 is also possible. Okay, right. So we will look at that later. Substitute, you add a new value from individual who was not selected in the sample. Okay, so this kind of the last three, the second, third, and fourth is slightly more work to do. But if you understand well what you are doing, sometimes you can consider doing so. But the commonly used is actually mean. But again, depends on the situation. So you may want to use mode. Okay, mean, mode, median. So these three are, well, it's 4. This 4 is actually very commonly used. I actually can highlight this one. Right, so we will only use this 4. Okay, let's look at this one for the age. Just now we mentioned that the age, you have 9,000 something, that is not so reasonable, right? So we just want to look at that. Okay, so you can see 9,999. So basically all these are unknown. We treat them as unknown. How do we determine the age? One of the way you use average or you use mode also okay in this case. Slightly more advanced, you may want to look at the income and then determine the age. Because somehow, of course, not necessary, but somehow they could have some relationship there, right? So over here, you are just trying to do some analysis and guessing, something like a guessing, right? So you want to guess what is the age. So $120 per year versus $60 per year, like this one. Maybe this one is like fresh graduate. Some of the income are actually lower. So maybe this is like around age 30. This is around age 50. We don't know, right? So it could be possible. It could be possible. So if you have some relationship between like whether you have credit card or not, for example, if let's say you know that in Malaysia to apply credit card under your name, not a sub card, you may need to have 3 months of set pay slip, something like that. It depends on the rules now. I'm not too sure. So let's say you need 3 months of pay slip. So when that person has a credit card, age is unknown, but we at least know that, hey, this guy at least worked 3 months already. Otherwise, he cannot apply for credit card, right? So that is some sort of relationship between them. Okay, that is something like the regression that we mentioned just now. Okay, so but of course we won't use that because it's just too details, too much of statistic details. Okay, but those are common one. Okay, so we can roughly scroll and see what are the items we have. And what are the records we have. So you have 138,000. Everything seems okay. You can insert them with the average. Let's see. Okay, good. So now I filter out this 9,999. That means I want to keep everything except for this one. So I untick this one and then I click OK. So I want to see what happened to the rest of the data. Okay. So 73 years old and so on. Okay, there is no 20 years old, 30 years old. Looks okay. Okay, now if you want to know the average, then you can select the whole column. After you filter out the 9,999, right? So you select here until the end. Okay, Control Shift down to select until the end. Okay, so once you have selected this one, you can see that on the bottom left of your status bar. So this bar is called status bar. You have 1,482 records. And then if you move to the right-hand side here of the status bar, you will see you have 1,482 count. So the count here count the number cells that has number, right? So I mean selected cell. Okay, so sum up the number, you have 96,000, average is 65. So 65.1572. So we round it up, take a rounding, right? So it becomes 65. You round this number. Okay, so you know that the average is 65. You may want to replace those numbers with 65, or you want to replace with a mode. Mode here, you can also use some function to count. Okay. So let's check the mode also. So for the age, we do one more checking. Okay, so I select everything. I scroll to the right-hand side a little bit. How do we check the mode for the age? I will label it first. Then I put underline, bold, italic. Okay. Age. Mode. Of course, the average just now is 65. Oops, what is this? Okay, right. So over here, let me emphasize a little bit on the average, right? So this is the number we get manually. So if let's say you think that, okay, can I use formula to do this thing? Actually, you can use formula to achieve this one, but then you need to be slightly more careful. We talk about average first before we talk about the mode. Okay, so I can use the function average, no issue, right? So average. And then how do we do average? We go to this part, select the whole thing, right? So I select the whole thing, and then I press enter. How come the average is different? So the average is different because this one included the 9,999, right? So this one does not include. This one includes 9,999. So if you want to use a formula to exclude it, how do we do so? You need to use a function that is slightly more advanced called average if. So there are two versions depending on your version of Excel. So if you are using 2003 onwards, I think you should have two versions of the function. So average if or average ifs. So singular and plural, right? So what is the difference here? One is if you have one condition. The second one, this one, is that when you have multiple conditions. So you see the description. Find the average given a set of conditions. Find the average given a condition, by a given condition, right? So this is one condition, this is multiple condition, but this one can also use for only one condition. Okay, so this part I will show you this one only because it can also use for one condition. Okay, so we will use this one. I will copy paste the function later. And then what is the average range? So let me zoom out, easier to navigate. I will select the whole age here, right, whole column. And then let me scroll back to here so that you can see what I'm typing. Right, so after I've selected the range, I put a comma. And then what is the criteria? criteria range. Criteria range is also here. So in this case, okay, before that, I show you this one so that you can see the difference. So the second argument or second parameter, I select this D2 to D1501. And then I put a comma and then I type in a vest. Okay. Okay. So you see, what is this function doing? This function is actually doing average out the column C if column D equal to vest. Average column C if column D equal to vest. Okay. So remember the number 213.14. Huh? So if let's say I filter out only the vest, okay, only the vest, I select the whole column, I can move. Let me see. I can move to the bottom right, and you see that the average is 202.93. Slightly different. Let me check. Okay, so basically that average if is doing something like this. So they filter this one, average this part. Okay, so because we are using column D just now. Okay, let me check this part. Should be 202. So average of C2 to this one, and then -213. Let me change the formula a little bit. Okay, right. So let me select all first. Okay, and then change this thing back. Those sum if is also the same thing, but we are using average if. Okay, right. So just now we mentioned that it's slightly different because you have like 202. This is 213. So you can see that after doing this some simple checking, just now I was doing the checking, you will realize that some of the text is actually different. So although here it is showing east, north, south, west only 4, right? So if I untick this one, tick the west, and then let me just move down a bit, and then I click OK. Then you can see that some of the numbers, some of the text, right, is slightly different. You see, this is like WEST, exactly 4 character plus 1 white space behind, 1 white space behind. Okay, so if we, let me zoom out and then we check other, zoom out further. Okay, so we check other text like this one. You have 1 white space in front. Okay, you see 1 white spaces in front. So when you do this sum if, because the typing here we type exactly the vest, right? So those that has white spaces in front or behind will not be included in the calculation, and hence you realize that you need to further do some checking, some what is it called, some cleaning. Okay, so on this column, how do we clean that? So if we did not do that calculation just now, we won't be able to notice this one also. So in order to clean this thing quickly, yesterday we learned about the trim function to remove the white space in front or behind, right? Another way is, because this is only one word, so you can actually use replace, find and replace without formula. So why one word you can do that, multiple words you cannot do that? So let me show here. Okay, so let's say I select E1 to E6. This one you don't have to follow. Control H, I can replace. So this is like after I type Control H, it will bring up this window. I press a white space. You see, observe the cursor. It will move a little bit, right? So it moves in a little bit, and then I click Replace All. So what it will do is it will replace all the white spaces in the range that I selected E1 to E4 just now. Okay, so we have zoom out and then say, you see the credit card user now, no more white space in between. So because the white spaces is replaced by nothing. So that means you remove the white space. Okay, so original like this, after I done the find and replace, so it become like this. Okay, so over here now, you can actually clean up this data by removing the white space using find and replace. So I select the whole column. Make sure you select, this one you can follow together. So we select the whole column from D2 to the last row, which is D1501. Make sure you select this one. Don't click anywhere else. Use your keyboard Control H, okay, to do the find and replace. And then make sure it is at the replace. Now let me zoom in. Okay, so at the find what here, click here, press white space. Okay, one time only. And then go to here, click replace all. Hey, they cannot find anything to replace. Okay, so let me zoom out and check. Oh, sorry, I accidentally typed twice white space. Okay, so now let me zoom in again. So click here. So I just backspace and make sure nothing else. One time of the white space, and then click replace all. Okay, so they have done like how many replacement? 120 replacement. Click enter and then escape, and then zoom out and see. Okay, so now all the data being cleaned already. You can see that now on this part, 202 makes sense already, right? Okay, so that is the average if. Of course, we can make sure that this thing changed to something that not including the 9,999. So I can select all these things. Okay, this one is here. So I will give you this formula in case you want to play around with it. Okay, so now I will basically type it here, the average if. Okay, so what you want to, which column you want to do the calculation? You want to do the calculation on this column, right? So C2 to C1501, put a comma, and then the second argument here is the range that you want to filter. You want to filter this part, right? So click this part again, C2, and then Control Shift down to C1501, put a comma. Okay, right? So the range that you want to calculate the average and the range of the criteria is the same. Now you want to find average of those that is not equal to 9,999, or in another way, you can say that they are less than 9,999. So can we do so? You cannot do so. Okay, so it is not like mathematics. You can directly put less than. So insert this symbol like quotation mark and then N 9,099. So you read this thing as like less than 9,999. Press enter. You get 65, right? So that is the number you have. So you can actually calculate the average using formula as well, if you need. Of course, in our case here, you can see we don't really use formula just now. Also, okay, this is manually typed in, that's why no decimal. Okay, so that is the average here. And then the mode here, you can directly use the mode. Mode here means the number that appears the highest. Okay, so you select everything. The mode is 65 also. Okay, so basically it is quite safe to put in 65, although it may be incorrect and high chance it is incorrect, but at least it is okay. Okay, so what is this mode here? Mode here again means 65 appears the most in this data set. Okay, so okay, I think I was disconnected just now. So let me share the screen and then come back to this one again. Right, so the rest here, so we talk about this thing. Let me list down a few common functions that is similar so that later on you can actually use the same thing. So average if, sum if, we are using the average if here, but they are actually quite similar. Count if, so I will use these three. Of course, this is like the singular version. So you have plural version, right? So average ifs, and then sum ifs, and then count ifs. So we talk about these 6 functions. So this 6 function is actually similar with one of the things that you were actually doing just now. You filter it out, you highlight, and then you look at the bottom right. What is the 3 numbers? Okay. So for example, so we use a filter, we use a form function. Okay. Function. Okay, right. So let's see. If let's say we want to know average age, right? So you can directly use the function average, no issue, that one. But if let's say you highlight the whole column, you can see 3 numbers here on the bottom right of your status bar. So you can see that there is like average, count, and also sum, right? So these 3 numbers, we can actually get it. Let's see if I can do a screenshot so that we can compare. Okay, we can actually get it. Oh, sorry. Using formula as well. So let's see. Oh, cannot. Okay, never mind. I can screenshot that. So you can see that the 3 numbers just now, when you select it, you can actually do the calculation. Okay, right. So this would be better. Okay, right. So now let's see if I select this part, right? The age. So I highlight all the columns that I don't need first. Okay, so I highlight, select the age from first row until this row, the last records. So at the bottom here, you can see that I have three numbers, average, count, and sum. So if we want to get the same thing, we can actually do the same calculation, right? So to get this average, count, and sum, you can actually use the function average. So this is a standard function, right? So we select from this one to this one, just like how you select just now. Okay, 184.36, and then of course I can do a count as well. So you can see these three function would be corresponding to the three number you see just now. Okay. So now let me select one more time. Okay. You see these three numbers versus these three numbers, they are the same. So what are these three numbers that we use? For example, this one is a sum function. So we sum from C2 to C1501. What is this function? Count function. You count how many numbers are there, right? Of course, in Excel, you need to be very careful. Sometimes tags are not counted. You need to use count A. So we won't go into details here. Okay, so average function to average out the range C2 to C1501, right? So that is what we have here. Okay, now let me zoom out a little bit. And then we see if, let's say, I only want to know what is the sum. This is the sum for whole column. I only want to know the sum or the average when the region is vast. So what happened? I do a filter here, right? I select only vast. So at the filter here, I select vast and then I click OK. Okay, so once I have filtered this data, you can see that the data that you see here, they are all in vast region. So what is the average? I do the same thing. I select the whole data, right? So everything that I selected now is vast region. So I go to the status bar and then I zoom in and show you. So the average is 202, count is 362, sum is 73,000. So what it means here is that I have 362 customers from West region. Average age is 202. Why 202? Because it's more than 9,999, right? So in order to get this same number, 202, 362, and 73,000, we cannot use the same function anymore. You see, this function, let me zoom up. Not this one, this three function, right? So it's no longer the same as what we have just now. This should be 202, Y184, because this is averaging the whole column. So if you want to make sure that you average only the vast, so you need to use the function average if. So this one for one condition. But of course, in the case you have multiple conditions, you need to use second column. So second column can be used when you have only one column also. So we will omit the first one. We only look at the second one. Okay. So this is numbers you can get from filter. You can also get from function, right? So just now you get like 202 and then 36 something, right, for the count. Okay. So how do we use the function to get the number? We will basically change it a little bit. So instead of average, now I delete this one. I use average, the first one on the right hand side, the red color font, average if IFS. Okay, I press a tab to auto complete this thing. Okay, before that, I need to remove the filter here. This one, I need to clear the filter. So click this one, you have clear filter, you clear it so that you can see everything. Okay. Now back to here. I type average if, okay, average if, and then I select the range that I want to do the calculation. That means I want to do it's just like when we select the column and then we look at the status bar, remember? So now we select the column, okay, comma. The order is slightly different. Now you do the filter, something like the filter. Remember just now we do a filter, then select the column, then look at the status bar. So 3 steps, filter, select the column, filter region, select age, look at status bar just now, 3 steps. Now it's slightly different. When you type in the formula, you type average if, right? So you select the age, comma, sort of like do a filter. So I do a filter on this part. So select from D2 to D1501. So make sure the range is the same, 2 to 1501, 2 to 1501, and then I put a comma. Okay, so just now we filter to West region, right? So I want West region. But we cannot type in West like this because Excel cannot read this as a text. Any text in the function, you should start with the quotation mark, W-E-S-T, close the quotation mark, close the bracket, then press enter. You will get 202, which will be the same as the status bar just now. Okay, so having same idea now, we know that this is count. We can also use count if. So let's try this thing. So we use the plural again, and then what we want to count? We want to count here. So count is basically you don't have a region, a range for you to do calculation, right? So unlike this average if, because average if you have condition range, which is the region, you filter West and then you calculate age. But count, you don't have that. You don't have to like filter West and then count age. You don't need to do that. You can filter West, count West. It's the same thing. So that's why you don't have the first column. You don't have to select age here. So this is West. Okay. So 362 is the same number as what you see in the status bar just now. And then we look at the sum if. Okay. So sum if will be the same as average if. So you want to sum the age based on the condition when the region is equal to. So you sum column C based on the condition when column D is equal to West. So you get 73,461, which would be the same as if you do the filter. And then select the whole column. Let's see. Right, so 73,461, 202 for the average, and 362 records. So that is the function sum if, count if, average if. So this is when you have a set of data, you want to calculate only certain number. You don't want to calculate all. Okay, so using this concept, we can apply this thing to calculate average if the number is less than 9,999. So then you will you don't have to do a filter, remember the number, type into that, right? So you can do that actually. Okay, so let's zoom out. Okay, it's so far okay for the part here. Okay, no problem. Okay, so once we have this one, okay, so let me make this thing larger. Right, so I delete this one. I will clear the filter. I have the calculation here, right? So the mode and average, you can see that they are around 65. So age here, of course, usually we will round it unless you know that they have age and month. So if you round this thing, the average and the mode is the same. So it's quite symmetry. Using 65 to replace to the 99, age 99, I'm sorry, 9,999 is also actually okay, quite okay. Okay, so this is one way of on missing value. So this is on missing value. Outlier, sometimes you don't replace it. Outlier, you may want to exclude it to do analysis. So before we proceed, I give one example on outlier analysis, okay? So for example, it may be a little bit too abstract, but imagine, let's say we know that all the vehicles on the road, right, especially in Malaysia, it is actually compulsory to buy insurance. Okay, so like motorbike, okay, vehicles excluding bicycle, motorbike, car, bus, lorry, we all have to buy insurance, and then before we can get the road tax. Okay, then once you have to have the road tax, then it's legal to be on the road. Okay, So the insurance part basically covers like the loss. If I drive the car and then someone hit to my car and then, okay, I can claim his insurance. If I accidentally hit into someone else's auto gate, I can claim my insurance to pay for the auto gate. Of course, we can also not filing the claims, okay? So not reporting the claims to the insurance company. So we pay from our pocket money, that is fine, okay? But anyway, so when we talk about these things, these are the claims amount. So there are so many cars in Malaysia. So imagine, let's say company A has like 50% of the market. That means 50% of the vehicles purchase insurance from company A. So they have a lot of claims coming in. So it could be few hundred until few thousand. So let's say at some point, at a point of the time, today a car A, car B hit to a Ferrari, and then the claims is like 2 million. Okay, so normal claims it could be like around 1,000, few thousand, but now suddenly one claim is 1 million or 2 million. Okay, so that claims amount is actually too large compared to the rest. So it is an outlier, but we don't replace it with the average or the mode for outlier, because you cannot say that the 1 million I pay you only 1,000. That is not possible. Okay, so what company actually is doing is that the 1 million, right? So of course they won't be having only one claims. They won't be having like 2,000 1 million claims also. That means 2,000 car hit into another 2,000 Ferrari. It won't be like that as well. So usually this kind of claims that is outlier, they separate it out from the analysis. They do separate analysis. That means all the normal claims that is around few hundred to few thousand, they group them together, they do the analysis. So the claims that has like a few millions, they group it in another location. So they do the analysis separately. Just like when we talk about income, we may want to consider the average income in Malaysia versus average income in United States, especially if you convert everything to ringgit Malaysia, right? So the currency exchange is just too high, like four point something. One ringgit Malaysia, one USD is 4 ringgit plus. So you don't want to put everything into consideration. So you may think that, okay, it is unfair. Their currency is 4 times, right? So how can you compare my salary with his salary? That is true. It's the same thing here. Outlier, we don't compare them with the normal data. So usually you may want to consider outlier. You do a separate analysis if you have a lot of outliers. If only 1 or 2 out of 10,000, that is fine. Okay, so you don't replace outliers value with the average. What we are doing is for missing value. Okay, so the 9,999 here is not outlier. It is missing value because it's not recorded. So system cannot put in a question mark. So system just put in 49 there. Okay, so now we can actually replace here. You can select the whole column. Okay, so end of the story already. So back to this one, you select the column C, then you use Control H. Let me bring up the keyboard. Right, so I can bring Control H, Control H, bring up this screen, and then of course now we know that. Let me zoom out a bit. Okay, right. So now we know that what we want to find. Need to be slightly careful because we use this find and replace just now. So there will be one white space here, you see. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see there's a white space because I used this find and replace just now. So you may want to just backspace a few times. Make sure that nothing there. Okay. Then you type in the 9,999. Replace with this one, you need to type like 65. You want to replace with 65. So before you press replace all, make sure you have already selected only column C. Otherwise, they will replace all the 9,999. Okay. So you see, I select column C, only this part. So I don't want them to replace this part for me. Okay. So then click replace all. You have 9,999 in the H column. So replace everything with 65. So this is okay. Okay, now we can proceed to the next one, income. So income part here, we have 2 types. One is 9,999, which is the missing data. right? So let me zoom in and show you. This is like a missing data, okay? This 151 could be a data entry error that they missed out the thousands. That means it should be 151,000. So starting from here until 22, they are incorrect data. This 9,999 should be missing data. So 20,000 and above should be correct data. So now we first deal with the rest first. Untick all. Tick this one so that you untick everything. So select all these number that is very small until 9,000. You can actually do a number filter less than 9,000. But I just click one by one to show you. Okay, so you can filter this part. Don't include this one first, and then click OK. Then zoom out also. Then you can see that all these should be in 1,000. You can actually manually amend it. So you may want to highlight this one a little bit because this one we actually change the value manually. Okay, so sometimes you want to put in some color to make it as an indicator so that we remember what we did. Okay, so add 3 zeros to them. Of course, you can use formula or you can do one by one. It's not too many rows. If too many rows, you do a formula for this one. So anyway, this one is quite fast because only a few rows, 11 rows. So you can check from the bottom left. Okay, that's why I did not use the formula. Okay, so once you have replaced the numbers, okay, so clear the filter again so that you get everything. So you scroll a little bit, you see black color is the original data, and then red color is the cleanup data. So you see it's quite reasonable now, right? Okay, so once you have this one, again, you may want to replace with average here. Okay, so this one you may not want to replace with the mode because this is average income. This is income. Income is very hard for you to count. Like, oh, I have a lot of people getting exactly 22,345 this year. It's quite hard. So maybe this person is getting 22,345. The other person is getting 22,344, right? So using mode for this case is not so reasonable, but using mean is okay, or average. So you want to use average without this 9,999. So again, we can do like untick this one and then click OK. Select the whole column of the income. Go to the status bar and then see the average is 90,897. So you can replace this number with the column, or you can also use the formula to calculate. So now let me zoom out and then we just replace 90,897. You can replace with this number, or you want to use formula also. Okay, so I won't repeat with the formula because we have already covered the formula in this column. Okay, so you select this part. Either you select whole column or you select from row 2 to row 1,501 also can. Control H, and then what is the average just now? Forgotten. 90897. Yes, Control H, and then I want to replace 9,999 with 90897. Okay, and then click replace all. So using average, it could be okay. It could be something that is not so good. It depends on situation again. Okay, so you can deal with it in this way. So not necessarily every time missing value you have to do the replacement. Because sometimes the missing value, if let's say in this case you have 1,500 rows, only 10 rows are missing. So if let's say you think that the 10 rows are not significant, you can ignore them. That means delete the row rather than replace the value. Okay, so but anyway, I will just use the average because we are not doing analysis at this part. So we are just practicing on dealing with missing data. Okay, so then after we have done this thing, then it seems okay now. So that is for the cleaning part. Okay, right. So this part here. Now, once we have cleaned up the data, the rest would be actually quite the heavy part is actually on more statistical part, but we don't have the capacity to cover here. So when you go on proceed to like high school and also the university, you will learn more about this statistic part. So we will only focus on this thing, the descriptive statistic. So what is descriptive statistic? Is in a layman term, basically is looking at the shape of the data, looking at the mean, mode, median. Okay, so inferential is like you want to do like the regression and something. Okay, so of course the slides here you may see a few things that is not like predictive modeling. Not actually I won't be covering this one. So I just introduce here. So if you are interested, you want to do some self study for the predictive modeling and anything, you can search online on certain topics like this so that you get an idea. Okay. So now on the descriptive part, we will basically focus on the shape of the data and mean, mode, median. So we talk about the mean and mode just now. So mean is average, mode is the items that happen the most frequently. Okay, so median is basically in the middle. So mean, mode, median are the basic three central tendency measure. So that means you want to look at how middle it is, right? So mean is of course sum everything divided by the number of data. So 6 data point, sum out everything 14 divided by 6, you get 2.3. Mode is 3 because 3 happened 3 times. The rest happened like 1 time and 2 times. Median is like you sort everything in increasing order. You take the middle, right? So in the middle you have 6, right? So left 3, right 3. So in the middle is 2.5. Okay, that kind of idea. So mean, mode, and median. So using Excel, the function would be just average, mode, and median. Okay. So let me just use this one again. Right. So 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. So just now in the slides, these are calculated manually. So in Excel, how do we do the mean, mode, and median? We use the function mean is for average, using average function, right? Average of this one. So you select the whole column is also okay because nothing else at the bottom. This is a blank Excel file that I started, or you select the 6 number. So 2.33. Mode, also same thing. You can use the old version of mode, easier. You don't have to deal with like multiple or single. Okay, 3, because 3 happens a lot of times. The highest, right? So the frequency, this one happened 1 time, this one happened 2 times, and this is 3 times. So mode is 3. It's the number that appears the most. Median, you can use median function. Okay, select everything. So you can see that you get exactly the same number as what you have in the slides. So these 3 functions are what you have. Okay, average, mode, median. Okay, so for mean, mode, median, you use average, mode, median. Okay, so that is the formula here. Okay. Right. Okay. So when we talk about mean, mode, median, what are they and when to use is that when you have mean, you are like taking the average. Okay, so we explained this one just now. So when to use is like symmetrical data. Symmetrical data is like you are in the middle, and then it looks like this symmetrical data, the first one. Okay, so most of the data appears in the middle, and then probability that the number is less than the mean and the probability that the number is greater than the mean is the same. Okay, so skew data, you may want to use mode. Skew data is like this. It's not symmetric. Like this is skewed to the right, this is skewed to the left. That means where is the tail? Okay, so that is when you want to use mode. Median is ordinal data. So ordinal data is like the number is actually like let's say we go to a competition, we get first place, second place, and third place, right? So the difference is actually not the same. So maybe let's say 400-meter running, right? So first place and second place, the difference is 1 second. Second place and third place, the difference could be 10 seconds. So you can see, but it's 1 to 2, 2 to 3. So that is ordinal data. That means the number 1 does not represent, it is the shortest time, but does not represent that 2 is double of 1. Okay, 3 is 1.5 of 2. It's not like that. So the scale is not known. Distance between the categories is unknown. So you may want to use median instead of average. Okay. So that is the central tendency measure. So usually these 3 numbers will give you like the average. If you think that your data has a lot of data points and then it's quite symmetric, using mean, you get an idea of how the data looks like. Okay, so dispersion is like how far it is from the center. So you can see this chart here. So the middle one, the dispersion is the smallest. That means standard deviation is smallest. And then second one is larger. Third one is largest. Okay, so dispersion larger means variance is actually larger. So we use variance, standard deviation, or the range, interquartile range to measure how flat it is. Okay. So you can also use box plot. So this is a box plot. So when you talk about box plot, basically you plot the data in a very simple form like this. So on the left-hand side in Excel is vertical, is at the bottom. So it's the minimum of the data, maximum of the data. And then Q1, Q2, Q3 is like 25%, 50%, and 75%. Remember, median is at the middle, right? So it's 50% or 15 percentile. If you have learned what is percentile. But if not, you think of it as like you rank it from smallest to largest. 50% of the data is median. 25% of the data is Q1, first quartile 1. 75% of the data is Q3, quartile 3. Okay, so by doing that, you can see the dispersion, like this one, how far, and so on. So we will look at that later. Okay, so measure of shape, you have skewness and kurtosis as well. This one I will skip for the shapes part, skewness and kurtosis. This one, after you learn what is normal distribution and so on, you probably will be able to appreciate what is this thing. Okay. So now we look at this dispersion part. So of course, the frequency table histogram, you learn about that in day 1 already. So over here, the content in this part is just additional information in case you want to build this histogram manually rather than using the built-in chart. Okay, so let's look at this one simple example before we take a short break. Okay, right. So let's see. This is actually a survey from Stressful Kingdom. Again, this is simulated data. So I have the age of the participant, I have the salary, I have the stress score. So the highest means the higher means the highest stress he or she has. Okay, so salary of course is higher better. Okay, now this one on the right hand side here, I already plot a histogram that is depending on the selection here. So how do we do that? This one, I leave it to you to figure out, and then you can play around. So like I can change it to salary. So you can see that the salary looks like this, and then I can stress score looks like this. Okay, so this part here that you can click and select is from data validation that you learned in the first day as well. Okay, so this is chart, we insert a bar chart. All the calculation, I put it behind the chart. So you can see there are few common techniques that we actually use when you try to present your result in Excel. First thing, drop down list is very useful. And then you want to create something that you change, then this thing will change accordingly. Sometimes not every time you want to do so, or not every time you need to do so. Okay. And then sometimes if you have calculation, you can hide your calculation somewhere. Like maybe you want to place the chart here and then you hide everything, all the columns here. Okay, so that you see only the chart. But of course, you cannot simply hide this thing, otherwise the chart will be affected. We'll talk about that. So over here, one of the techniques also is I place all the calculation behind the chart so that you can't see the calculation by default. So when you present, people can't see the calculation. Okay, so you can actually move it around and see the calculation. So I have like how many bars I calculated and then I sum and so on. Okay. So anyway, this part is not to show how to do this dynamic chart, but it's for you to get an idea of the dispersion. The distribution. Okay, now let's see the edge. So you see this part is quite symmetric. So this is symmetric distributed. Okay, not skewed to the left, not skewed to the right. If you look at salary, most of them it's like earning quite low. A few of them earning quite larger. So this is skewed to the right. That means it's like a tail to the right hand side. Okay, positively skew or right skew. Stress score, this is left skew. So most of them quite stressful. A few of them not so stressful. Okay, so that is basically what we have here. So symmetry, right skew, left skew. Okay. So that is the central tendency. That means you see the mode is here, this one. Highest bar is the mode. Okay, and then of course for the edge, the mode is here. This is the mode. And average, it should be around here also because it's central, right? So quite symmetric. So that is the example of this central tendency. Then over here, you have the skewness and kurtosis, the last worksheet in this file. This one I won't cover here. So on the right-hand side, frequency table and histogram. Also, I won't cover here. You learn about histogram, I think, in the first day. So this part here is basically like a manual step on how do we do the histogram. Okay, so if you want, you can use the histogram but features here. Just a recap. So insert chart, you can see a histogram here. Okay, or you can calculate one by one and then use a bar chart as histogram, just like this one. If you need something dynamic, you need to calculate, make your own histogram. Or if let's say your Excel version does not have histogram, you can use this data analysis toolpack add-ins. Okay, so for those, if you are using version that does not have this histogram function, you can leave a comment in the chat box. So after the break, I will show you how to enable these add-ins and then use the histogram. Before that, one of the things before we go for a break is that how do we determine number of bins? So these are some concepts that may be you have not learned yet. This is a typo, determined, miss out the E. You may not learn this thing yet, depending on which year you are in. Okay, but basically, when you want to draw a histogram like this, how many bars you have, right? So 10, 5, 7. So usually it depends on certain things. The calculation is like this. So we take the maximum and minimum. We take the range. Okay. So the range is like minimum, maximum minus minimum. You get the range. So the range is 52. Okay. The bin width here is that how wide you want for one bar. So 10 years, 5 years. So one bar you have to group like different years inside, right? So from 5 to 10, 10 to 15, or 8 to 10, 10 to 12. So that one is the bin width. So one bin is like the bar. Okay. So once you have determined like, okay, I want 10. 52 divided by 10, I get 6, right? So 52 divided by 10, I get 5.2. So I need 5.2 bar. But bar is like integer, just like number of car. 1 car, 2 car, 3 cars. There's no 5.2 cars. So you need 6 bin here. Okay, so that is the calculation. This one is basically something that you can adjust. 10, the bin is 10 or 5, depending. So in our case here, if you talk about age, 10 is good in this case, because the data is like from 14 to 66, right? So 10 is good enough. So this is the general rule of thumb. Okay, so that is for histogram. And then this is box plot. Box plot also same thing. If you are using old version of Excel, you don't have box plot. So you have to tweak around. If you are using 2016 or 13, let me think, 2016 and onwards, you have the box plot here. So you can use the box plot to get something similar to this one. Okay, so we will take a short break now for toilet break. So if you have any questions or if your version does not have this histogram or box plot, you can let me know. You can screenshot and ask, let me know, or you can just drop a comment. We will talk about that later after the break. Okay, so it's 11:02 now, so we will look at continue 11:07. Okay, we take a short 5 minutes break. Okay, so any question, just let me know.
Sir, I think you're muted.
Okay, sorry. Let me okay, so thank you. So let me delete this one first. We will complete this one. Okay. Last part before the break. Last part was where is it already? Yeah. Okay. Maybe you can let me know what is the specific part of the content. Okay, so I can't really remember. Okay, so the bin width. Okay, so bin width here is basically on how do we want to determine the number of bars. So because sometimes when you want to do this thing in a slightly more manual way, so when you try to use the histogram, so let me show using the histogram feature directly. Okay, so first thing we want to construct the chart for the age, right? So we select the whole thing and then go to insert, and then let me move this one around. Histogram. Okay, so you can see this histogram chart actually gives us the histogram with the bin width like 14 to 17, 17 to 19, and so on. So you observe that over here is square bracket, means included. That means the first bin here, that is more over here, 14 to 17 included. This is 17 not included. That means X is greater than 17, but less than equal to 19 for the second, and so on until the last one included the endpoint. Okay, so over here you cannot have you don't have the option to choose the bin width. Of course, you may, okay, we talk about that later. You may want to format this thing, data series. Okay, so you can do some of the formatting, but it's not so horizontal axis. So you see, when you are using this one, so if you have this version, right? So let me zoom in a bit. So anyway, on the right hand side is the formatting. So you can actually right click here anywhere, and then you choose the, let me right click here. You choose like format. So plot area is the white color behind lah. Okay, so if you want to format the bar here, you can click here. So you can see that this part changed already. Okay, observe the right hand side. If I click at the plot area, okay, and I click here, okay, or I click here, I can actually click the grid line. So you see it changes. Okay, so you can click at here, and then you click at this 3 bar here. You can actually, sorry, not series. You have to click here. You choose the horizontal axis. Okay, and then you can see that the bin, we can actually like automatic bin width, number of bins, and so on. Okay, so let me zoom out a bit, and then move to the. So number of bins is 20. This is by default. So if you want to 10 bin width, number of bin, you choose a 10. So bin width is 5.2. Okay, if let's say you choose a bin width of 10, the number of bin will be 6. You see 6 here. So why is it 6? Let's zoom out and see. So this is when you have 6 bin, 1, 2, 6 bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last one 6 is very small here. Okay, so you have 6 bar. Okay, so also you can see that this is quite symmetry. So that calculation on the right hand side is basically on how do we calculate the number of bins. Okay, so sometimes you want to make everything dynamic, so you may want to calculate separately. So that is the calculation. We take the maximum of the age, minus the minimum of the age. So you get the difference, these two. Maximum is 66 minus minimum 14, you get 52. So this number 52, we call it as range. Okay, so once you have the range, you determine what is the bin width you want. So I want 10, right? So from 10 to 20, 20 to 30, something like that. So it's a 10 range. So bin width is here. If you look at this one, this is 14 to 24, is 10. 24 to 34. So default, it will start from the 14. So if you want to change it to 10, you can also change it later. But okay, we don't talk about that here. You can change it in the formatting. You can click here, and then just like how you change the bin width, you can change the tick mark and so on. And then the number. Okay, this is number format. Okay, then back to here. Then you know that, okay, I have a bin width of 10. So how many bars I should have? Because in total, you have only 52, right? The range. So 1 bar is 10. So 5 bar is 50. You have another 2 left. So you cannot have a 0.2, but you have only 6 bar, right? So in total, you have 6 bar. That is number of bins. So this calculation is one way. That means you change the bin width, like 5, I will have 11. Same as here, if we change this thing to 5, you can check that this thing should be giving you 11 bins. So let's see. You press enter, then you can see number of bins become 11, right? So let me zoom out, and then the bars become smaller. You see, not so fat already, slimmer, and then you have more bars, 11 bars here. So of course, the last one is very small here. So that is one way. Using the default setting here, you can do it 2 ways. That means you click this one, you change the bin, number of bins, and they automatically calculate what is the bin width for you over here, you see. So I can also change this to 6, let's say. Then it's 8.66. Of course, just now we use 10. Okay, so you have something similar also. Okay, so that is what we have here for the setting. So this is like the calculation. And of course, you can reverse calculate, but formula link here is from changing this one to this one. So you don't have the reverse of the calculation. Using this one, you can have that. Okay, so this is on the number of bin and also bin width. Let me see. Okay, no problem. And then the next one is we have to go back to this one, right? So let me go this part a little bit faster, right? So these 3 parts here, we use the same thing. It's the average function, mode function, and median function. So which is the same as the example we have earlier in the screenshot that I sent through the chat. Okay, so from here you can see that the age is actually quite around the same, around 40, right? So we know that somehow we know that age is actually quite symmetric. Salary, not so symmetric. Stress score, also not so symmetric. So if we go to here, if you want to check whether these are symmetric or not, okay, so I have this chart, let me close this one. I have this chart built already, right, constructed. I want to change the range from here to here. How do I do so? There are 2 ways. 3 ways. One is you add a new chart, right? So let me delete this one. So to add a new chart, like for example, salary, I can select from E10 to the end. Okay, Control Shift down, and then I go to insert, and then I find the histogram again. Okay, so of course you can see that the histogram by default, they give you a lot of bins. Not so easy to read, so you may want to format this thing a little bit. I changed the number of bin to like 10 enough. 10. We don't really need, okay, maybe 20. You can see, okay, looks nicer a little bit. Okay, so otherwise too many bins is a bit hard to visualize. Okay, so once you have this one, if you want to add the stress score and age, you can add the other 2 charts separately. That is one way. You add new chart. Second way, you can right click anywhere here. You can see select data. Okay, let me right click here. Then you can see select data. From here, you can also change the data range, right? So let me move here. So you can see that this part is the data. So from E, I can change to like F. So over here, you cannot use cursor, arrow key left, right, you don't use that, use mouse to click. Okay, I type F here. So I change it to column F and then let me zoom out and then I click OK. So it will change to the, let me undo. Okay, so one of the way you can change the range, I did not change it properly. So that is the second way. Anyway, third way, which is easiest is that you can directly drag the range. So you see, when I'm clicking elsewhere, nothing happened. I click inside the chart. So this thing is selected, right? So I move my cursor to the border and then click drag. Okay, I release. This thing changed to stress score. Let's zoom out and see. So it looks like this. It's similar with the chart that I prepared earlier, right? So drag to the edge. You see, this is the chart of the edge. So that is how you can easily change the range. Of course, you can also resize it. If let's say, let me move it at the side. If let's say you think that, okay, I don't want to include the last person because it could be data entry error, for example. So you can move your cursor to the corner of the range, right? So click and resize. You can resize it actually, you see. I can resize to exclude this 2%, or I can resize to include this 2%. Okay, so these are some of the tricks that you can perform with the charts. Okay, then that is for the histogram. Okay, so now we look at this part here to calculate the 4 items here. This one is for you to understand the dispersion. That means how fat the distribution is, or how far the data is located from the center. Okay, so the center could be mean, mode, median. So using variance and standard deviation, you are measuring how far they are from the mean. Okay, how far they are from the mean. So you can use variance.p. When you are using variance function, let me type again. So you can see quite a few variance function is suggested here. So we will talk about only the first two. Either using population, the first one, .p is population, .s is for sample. Difference here is that if you are, for example, you conduct a survey for Malaysians' income, average income. So we get 10,000 people to participate in this survey. You should be using variance.s. Why? Because it is a sample of the whole population, so whole Malaysia, only 10,000 of them, right? To represent the whole Malaysia. So we should use .s here. If let's say you can get everyone in Malaysia to participate in the survey, then you can use population. So the number of person who participated in the survey or the number of data point in your data does not determine whether you should use population or sample. It is based on the nature of the data. So if you have, for example, 10 groups, a group of 10 people, all the 10 people participated in this survey. So it is a population, although it is only 10%, but it is everyone there. So population, okay? So when you talk about a data from a country or a kingdom, so usually it's a sample. So we use variance.s here. Okay, so then you link it to the data from the other worksheet. Click here, select the whole column. Let me move up. Let me adjust a little bit. Okay, larger. Right, so we use variance.s because this is sample. We mentioned these things just now. Select the whole range, press enter. Okay, so same thing, standard deviation is actually square root of this one. That means to a power of 0.5. Okay, but you don't have to calculate in this way. You can also use standard deviation function. Also .s here because we are referring to sample. Okay, because only 1,000 people. Okay, of course, you can double check whether your formula is correct or not. You take standard deviation, square it, right? Same. Okay, so that means your function is okay. Range here is maximum minus minimum. I put the description on the right hand side. You can take maximum, highest is maximum of this column minus minimum of this column. Okay, so it's 52, which is the number that you see when we are trying to determine the number of bins just now, right? So IQR also same thing, interquartile range. So we actually use Q1 minus Q2 quartile, right? Or percentile also okay. Let me zoom in. This is a new function. So remember just now we mentioned that median is like at the 50% of the data. So Q1 is 25%, Q3 is 75%. So you can use percentile function. That is fine. The second last year, this one, so that you don't have to worry about that INC or EXC. So inclusive or exclusive, you can ignore that for this moment. Okay. You can use percentile or you can use quartile function also. You use the one that without the dot, okay, so that you don't have to worry about all these things. Quartile, array here is the data. Okay, so select the data. Okay, let me zoom out first. Okay, select the data and then comma, quartile. Okay, so you type in, where is the, never mind. Okay, right, so you can type in 1, 2, 3, 4. So minimum, first quartile, median, third quartile, maximum. Okay, so now we are using third quartile minus first quartile, put in a 3 here. Okay, and then press enter. Sorry, we should not press enter. Let me zoom out. Okay. Minus. Okay, right, so the formula should be 3 minus 1 over here, then 10. Okay, so let me send you this formula. Okay, so once you have this thing, of course, we can just copy paste to the next two column. So that is basically the dispersion. Over here, usually these kind of numbers, too many decimal, don't present your result in this way. Okay, so what we do is do some formatting. Like maybe you want to decrease the number of decimal. Okay, and then you may want to put in 1000 separator also. Let's select everything consistent. Put in this one, the comma. Okay, so once you put in the comma, you click this one, you cannot align center or left right already. It is always on the right hand side. Okay, because this is like numbers always on the right hand side. It's like accounting format. Okay, so after you have done the formatting, you realize that, okay, you see the age, the variance is like about 60, standard deviation is 7. This like how far it is. So versus this one and versus this one. Okay, so it measure how far it is. Salary, the variance is actually larger. Okay, and then stress score also quite high. Okay, so that is the measure, and then of course you can also insert a box plot using this one. So let me just do this box plot for the age, and we see what happened. Well, we use salary. Salary is not symmetric, right? So I select the column of salary again, insert, and then I insert a box and whisker here. Okay, use this one. Then zoom out. Let me make this thing smaller a bit so that we can see it. Right, so you can see this chart now, it looks like this. So what this thing is representing, you see, it is similar. This is upside down, is a vertical point, vertical version. This is horizontal version for the age. Okay, so salary, this one. The box is here, minimum, maximum on the right hand side, right? So same thing here. This is like the box, and then minimum is here, maximum is here. Okay, so this is aligned like this. Okay, so basically this is the box plot. The version or the illustration a bit different, but that is the box plot chart that you have in Excel. Of course, you can do the formatting like remove the grid line and so on. So talking about formatting, we will look at that in later. Okay, so any question for the box plot so far?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So for box plot, right? If let's say you are using 2013, then you may want to use some what is that called? Custom chart. That means you use certain chart and then make use of error bar to get the box plot. Okay, so if let's say any of you are using 2013, you can't see the box and whisker chart, then you can let me know. Otherwise, we can proceed to the next one. Right, so these are the to insert the add-in, you can use this one. So again, if let's say you want to use histogram, but it is not in your version, you can add the add-ins and then use the histogram. Okay, so on this part, this predictive modeling is basically, you see the whole process of the data analysis that we are doing. We get the data, understand the data, clean up the data, do some descriptive statistic. We understand the shape of the data and so on. Then for more advanced, the contents here in these slides, I actually remove everything, just the name only. Okay, so this is not going to be covered in this workshop. So most of these content would be basically either Form 6 foundation or Form 6 if you are taking further maths, you probably learn a few, and then or in university level some knowledge. Okay, so of course during study break or school holiday, you are interested, you can read certain things from this order. Learn up what is linear regression. After that, look at what is time series, and then clustering and logistic regression. So these are 4 common types of predictive modeling. You have more than that, much more than that. Okay, so these are only the first 4. Okay, so we won't cover this predictive modeling part. Okay, so coming to here, when we have done the prelim analysis, look at the chart distribution and so on, we want to present the result in a sense that we usually don't present the result in this way, just like this one. Let me delete this one and this one. Okay, right. So we won't present this table to the CEO or to the bosses, right? So same thing here. We won't present like after you have calculated, you tell them, okay, I have 10 bars and then the count is like this, because this is not so easily visualized. Okay, so usually what we do is we give a chart, then directly people see, oh, most of them the salary is quite low. We have to work on this part, right? Or maybe you look at the age or the stress score. You realize, hey, this pool of people, their stress is actually quite high. So maybe we need to create some activity for them so that they can be more balanced, right? So that kind of idea, directly you can see, you don't have to look at the numbers, think one by one. Okay, so this is very important. But how do we build a chart or construct a chart that is informative? It's quite a big topic actually. So first thing, before we actually use a chart, then before we construct the chart, maybe you want to ask, why I use bar chart here? Why don't I use line chart, or why don't I use pie chart? Okay, so what chart is better? Which chart is better? And then what is the objective? Who is your audience? These 2 things is very important. What is your objective and who is your audience, right? So what they are more interested with. For example, if let's say you are presenting these kind of things to the ministry, right? You want to let them know that, hey, you can create a lot of probably they are interested in like creating recreation park or create some activities with the citizen, right? So maybe they are more interested with this part. But if you are talking about, okay, we as a company, we want to launch, like for example, luxury fashion store in this village or in this kingdom. So you may realize that not so suitable because their average income is not too high. So if we want to have a store here, maybe we should focus more on like the basic things, right? So because their age is also, most of them is around 40 something. So probably they are having kids like around 6, 7 years old or 10 years old. So you may want to focus on like school bag, school clothes, something like that, right? So we don't want to focus on selling iPhone because first thing, their age group and also their salary income, their income group. Okay, so it depends on who is your audience. You prepare the chart that will achieve the objective, okay, or at least they get what they want, okay. So this part is very important. So we don't simply present everything, then people get confused also. Okay, so once you know the objective and also the audience, this is the most important thing. Of course, knowing your data, you should know that when you are doing cleaning and so on. Okay, and then we can select the right charts. So usually what we do is like this. Bar chart or stack bar chart is for composition, like market share. How many people using iPhone, how many people using Android, and how many people using others' phone, right? So you can use pie chart. It's a composition of the markets. Market share also same thing. Time dependent trend, you use line chart. So usually a line is like relationship from one point to another point. So line chart, most of the time you want to use it with time dependent. So like inflation or what is the number of population we have in the country. So you use a line chart, okay. To show the distribution, then we use bar chart. So that exactly same as this one. We want to show the distribution of the age, right? So we use the bar chart. If let's say we have like occupation in this table, then you may want to use pie chart for occupation, okay? Of course, occupation can also use bar chart. It's actually depends on your situation. Okay, then coming to this 3D chart, most of the time, if you are not too sure whether you should or should not use 3D chart, try to avoid it because 3D chart can be bad. For example, you see over here, this part, right? Let me zoom in a little bit. You can see that brand B, right, looks like bigger than brand D, which is this one, correct? But then I constructed it in the same percentage. So 3D chart, because the further it is smaller. So you don't want this thing to happen that, because a lot of time, most people, it depends on the person, but most people, they tend to get the information from the chart. So the moment you see this thing, you realize that, hey, brand D is actually smaller than brand B. We should invest in brand B. But in fact, it is not. They are the same. So you don't want a misleading chart as well. So this kind of misleading chart is very important. Not important, important to avoid, okay? So now let me zoom out a bit. Now, same thing here, a lot of chart like this one, you may see this kind of chart also, length or angle. So you need to mention carefully, like if you look at this chart, A is like this, B is like this. Is B greater than A? If you talk about the number of products or male to female proportion by program. So the proportion of male to female in program B versus program A, is it bigger? So actually they are the same. Okay, so when you use this kind of chart, it's also somehow need to be slightly careful because people tend to read this thing because the area is larger than A, right? So you will think that, okay, B has higher proportion compared to A, but in fact, they are the same 10%. Okay, of course, if you understand when or why we should use this thing, then you can use it properly. But if you are not too sure, then try to avoid this kind of misleading chart. This one also same thing. So chart, we learn how to insert a chart in first day. Over here, we talk about some of the things that you need to be slightly more careful. So you look at this, what is this? Population. United States, it's like Indonesia. It's like triple of Pakistan's population, you see? It's like triple. This is like maybe 6-7 times. So big difference. But they are not starting from zero. So what happened? Actually, it's quite close actually, right? It's not triple. It's not triple. The triple is because we truncate it. We truncate it. That's why it becomes triple. Okay, so this one. Let me just quickly show you one simple example. Right, so this is the data just now, and then okay, right, so you see, if we plot this chart carefully, a bar chart again, you will see the difference. This is not histogram, it's a bar chart. Use this one. Okay, so I try not to use the 3D bar chart, and this is not histogram. You need to be slightly more careful. Oops, too small. Okay, let me delete all this so that it become larger. Okay, so you can see actually it is not like triple compared to this chart. You see, it's very misleading. So you try to avoid these kind of things. Don't start from like non-zero unless again you are sure with what you are doing. Otherwise, start from zero is better. So you see the chart is actually better, more representative, right? So compared to this one, that is this one. X-axis also same thing. This one is Malaysia data. I purposely get it from Malaysia inflation data. So you can see a good news here is saying that inflation is like the price of the items is increasing, right? So last time one mee goreng is 3 ringgit. Now one mee goreng is 6 ringgit. So this is inflation. Okay. So you can see that the inflation percentage in Malaysia is decreasing. Last time, 2011, 3%. So that means 1 ringgit become 1 ringgit 3 cents. 2013 is 2%, 0.88, 0.66. The percentage is decreasing. It seems like wow, Malaysia is getting very, very good, right? But observe carefully on the x-axis. This is 2 years, this is 5 years, this is 1 year. So the scale is not on scale, right? So 1 unit, you see, like you draw that time, the scale is not the same. So the shape is different. Looking at this shape is decreasing. But if I plot it year by year, well, it is not really decreasing, right? So decrease a little bit, go up, decrease, and somehow go to 3.87, and then of course drops for the 2 years, 2020 and 2021, we are not too sure. Okay, but you can see that generally it is not always decreasing. Okay, so when you plot the chart x-axis, you need to be very careful. Also, make sure the unit is the same. That means the difference. If this is 2 years, this should be 2 years, 2 years. Then 2 years, 5 years, 1 year. So that will again give you a different chart for the range. Okay, no problem. Where is it already? This one, right? Range is this one. Okay, right. So pros and cons of charts. There's no best or worst chart actually. So can we use this kind of situation in a certain situation? Probably yes. Okay, we are not saying that definitely you cannot use, but most of the time try to avoid this kind of charts. Okay, so this is a video that is quite interesting. It's a TED Talk, I think. So you can watch the video if you are interested. So this also very interesting chart, a bubble chart. Of course, you can see that this chart, I think this person is the one who made this chart famous, the bubble chart. Okay, so you can see that the x-axis and y-axis, they are not starting from 0 as well. The scale is not the same also. You see, this is like 10 times, 10 times, but at least it is consistent. When you use a multiplicative difference, when you use additive difference. Additive means like this one. just now we mentioned 1 year, 1 year. So it's a +1, +1. So this one is times 10, multiply 10, multiply 10, right? So this one is another topic. So generally, most of the time you will use additive. That means +2, +2, +2. Very seldom you will use multiplicative. But of course, if your data is increasing exponentially, you may want to use this kind of multiplicative increment. Okay, so it added some like bubble chart plus time factor in. So it's a very interesting chart. So you can watch this video if you want to have an idea of what are the chart that you can play around. Okay, so coming to this part here, we talk about chart jumps. So what is a chart jumps here is basically saying that, okay, if you have some idea or some experience in drawing and also photography, you will observe the difference here. Drawing is that you start from a blank paper, right? You start to add element into that paper. Photography is that when you are trying to take a photo, you try to make the subject stand out. So like, for example, portrait, you take a photo of your friend, right? So you try to remove, not to say remove, but you try to make like bokeh effect so that the background become blur a little bit and the object stands out, so that your focus is there. So it's the same thing here. You want to make sure that all other things that is not relevant to the scenery, to the subject, you want to make them not so in focus. So like this one versus this one, or this one versus this one, right? So you want to make sure that you can see, people can see from your picture what you are trying to convey the message. Same as the chart, you don't want to put in too many things into the chart. So for example, this one versus this one. Of course, the black color, black blue, somehow is quite, the contrast is quite nice. So you can change the color a little bit, but you see over here, you can see that you want to remove the background color, the line, the axis, and so on. So you label it here. You don't really need y-axis in this case. So y-axis is not necessary. You can't really see the number. Over here, you can see the number. And then, of course, we can also highlight the bar that you think is more important. You change the color. Okay, so that is for the chart design. Okay, so you remove title. You must make the title here. You remove the unnecessary bar chart, grid line, axis, grid line, and so on. Change the color to something that is clear. Okay, and of course, one thing by default, Excel will give you this thing. How come the scroll is so slow? Okay, here, right? By default, Excel will give you this thing. If you have only one series, like in this case, only one color, right? So you can delete this one. You don't really need this thing. Okay. Because only one bar, right? So unless you have a different series, then that one is different story. So chart jumps, you can remove legend, add gaps in between bar like this one, so that every bar is clearly separated. Update chart title. These are the steps that we did from here to here. Okay. Highlight top seller if that is our objective. Okay. And then this is to insert chart. So when you talk about bar chart, you have three types: cluster, stack, and 100% stack. So the difference is that, for example, I gave some example, like cluster chart is you want to compare number in terms of number, not percentage. Science stream student versus art stream student. So you want to compare them side by side in this way. Okay. So stack chart is that you want to know the total number of students. So you put it in this way. Okay, so that you can see the total. If you want to know the percentage, you use 100% stack chart. Okay, so that is on certain things about the chart. So, and also some of the rule of thumbs. Okay, so constructing dashboard. The dashboard here, you have a few types. I will just complete these slides first. Okay, so dashboard is basically you get a set of data, you compile it into something that is informative in a one-page form, so that people can somehow, if you want, you add some click, and then they can amend a little bit, and then they can play around with the dashboard to see, okay, I want to see from this year to this year. I want to look at in Malaysia, what is the performance, in Singapore, what is the performance, and so on. Okay, so that is a dashboard. So of course, in dashboard, we avoid using too many text, too many colors. So these two are common mistake. 3D object also, sometimes you want to avoid it. Red and green in the same display. Okay, so you want to ensure that everyone can distinguish red and green. Not everyone can. Okay, visual effect also same thing. Light and shadow. Personally, I don't really like shadow because it makes the whole thing unclear. Okay, unless again you know that you really need the shadow part. Otherwise, don't include that. Okay, so that is the general idea on this chart and dashboard on the design part. Okay, so okay, so of course, any questions you can let me know. So this is like a small practice. Over here you can see let me look at this one. Well, this one, right? So there is a dashboard Excel file. You can open up this one. You will realize that sorry, let me close this thing. You will realize that there are a few worksheets here. So starting from the green color here, the 3 green color is actually the data that I get from a website. And then the last three worksheet in orange color is actually a calculation. So from last 6 worksheet here is one example of dashboard, a simple dashboard. So all calculation I completed already. So it's just for you to play around to understand the worksheet. Okay, so what we have here, as you can see from here, is that, for example, you don't over here, I can actually see this is a World Cup. Of course, it's a very simple one. You can improve it in terms of color and other things. So from World Cup, you see, I can change the year, and then like understanding. Okay, 1934, or I can add more years. Let me add more years here. Okay, so I can see what is the percentage. This is 100% stack chart. Percentage of draw, home, and win. That means home team win actually quite high percentage. You can see from here. So this one also same thing. Starting from beginning until year 2010, I think the data, 2014. You can see that the chart here, starting home team win, the percentage is quite high. Until now, home team win around 40% only. Right, so it's quite even now. So the advantage of home team, that means Malaysia team play in Malaysia, the probability of winning is higher last time. Now it's almost the same already. Okay, that is the home team analysis. So this part is using a world map to see who is actually the getting most first place. So Brazil is the getting 5 times, and then you can see other countries here. Okay, so total you have 852 matches, and then score 2,400. So 20 times of World Cup starting from here to here, and then and so on. So these are some an example of dashboard. That means you give some key indicator or key information. You give some chart for people to visualize. Of course, the world map here is not too useful in this sense, because you can also use a bar chart or a pie chart. Okay, but this one here, of course, the color, you can make it nicer. I leave it for you to play around with it. So you can see that the home team does not have significant advantage nowadays, because maybe flying to other countries, more matches, and then more scientific training already. So home team advantage is not that great anymore compared to those days, right? Those days almost 100% home team will win. Okay, but now it's like half. You see green and orange is like half already. Okay, away means from other country come to here and play. Okay, so the last 6 worksheets is basically one example of a dashboard. Okay, and then over here you have some basic chart, and then for you to play around, like how do you want to make the chart more interesting. Okay, you can like 1000 separator, remove the grid line, and so on. So you can remove the grid line like this. Okay, looks nicer. You want to change the header, remove this one maybe. Okay, right, and then okay, let me remove this freeze pane. Okay, so you want to add data label. So click at this blue color line, okay? And go to chart design, add chart element, you can add data labels above. Okay, looks good, right? And of course, I want to do a formatting here, right click, format data labels. So I can format the numbers in current numbers and then no decimal. Press enter. Okay, right? So you see, it just a simple change, and then you will realize that it looks nicer already. And of course, the year here, you need to change the year here. Okay, so right click here, a little bit over time, let me complete this chart, sorry for that. So you right click and then choose select data, and then you can see that over here, let me zoom in. Horizontal axis, you click edit, and then okay, now let me zoom out and then go to the year there and then select this year. Okay, then click OK. Click OK. So that you can see the chart now has the correct year and also the correct bar. Okay, so what number is this? You are not too sure, right? So you cannot change the header as well. So chart title, leave it there. Or if you have only one chart, you can also make the chart here like number. The chart title here and then remove this one. But usually we won't do that. Okay, usually we won't do that. Okay, so that is for this chart. And then for the rest of the chart, also same thing. You may want to change different things. This is to use stack chart. Okay, and so on. So you can change the chart type and so on. You can play around with this thing for the few charts according to like how do we make remove the chart junks. That means items that is not necessary, like y-axis, grid line we removed just now, right? So that is the chart junks that you think, okay, not really needed. So you remove that. Okay, and for the 3 worksheets here, smart art, link picture, and maximum graph, these are optional. You can play around to see how to deal with this thing, but these are slightly more advanced methods. So you can look at the basic and then play around, make sure that you can how to say remove the chart junk, change the color, make it looks nicer. So that is the key thing here, so that when you present the chart, you have something that is clear and directly people know what you are trying to say with the chart. Okay, so that is what we have here for the charts. And then again, this is an example of the dashboard. So you can go through the data and then see like until calculation, how do we deal with this thing? What are the things that you can present and so on. Okay, so I think we will stop here for this workshop. Any questions, you can let me know. Okay, so any questions for today's workshop?
No, sir.
Okay, so if no question, then I think I will end here. Thank you for joining and hopefully you enjoy and learn something from this 3 days workshop. I will pass back to Miss Lee. Miss Lee?
Excuse me, sir. How about the competition for data analysis?
Your question is on like the when you get the questions or what are the rules and so on?
The rules and regulation for the competition, data analysis competition.
Okay, so for that one, they will announce they will send the questions, and then after you complete the analysis, you will have to do the what is that called? You present the what you found out from the data, and then basically it is like you have a set of data, and then you probably need to do some cleaning, understanding the data, and then you present the data with a chart. I mean, not necessarily a chart, it could be multiple charts depending on what you have analyzed and found out. And then from that charts, you basically want to tell something that is interesting and important.
Thank you, Mr. Chu, for the workshops. I will send another email with more information by today to update you more about the competitions. So in case the participants, if you have any question, you also can drop us the email. We will get back you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Miss Lee.
And for the participants, I just posted the sign out form and feedback form link. Would appreciate if you can help us to fill up the forms after this. And just a short one, just would like to promote ECAVSF 2021 will be held on 23rd to 31st October. So hope you can sign up our webinar. We also will be organizing some like quizzes and mini competition during the webinar. The details we will announce during the webinar. So hope you can join us for the webinar also. Yeah, we will email some information about the competition to you after this. Hope by today lah. I will gather all the information and email by today. So in case you have any question, you may drop us an email. Oh, you mean put the information in Teams? Yeah, we will upload and put the file here also. You can come back to check it later. Then for the recording of the workshop today, same like the past 2 days, I will be putting the recording inside the drive, and just in case if you can't get the recording here. The webinar, we have a list of the webinar for ECAVSF. One moment, I give you the link of our ECAVSF. This is the link of the ECAVSF. So you scroll down the website, you will see a list of the schedule. We will organize some like mini quizzes, mini competition during the webinar. Like you attend the webinar, so at the end, the speaker will organize a short quiz. So you can join the quiz and to win the KLSF limited edition merchandise. So before the webinar, we will be posting to indicate that this webinar we will have small quiz, so you can join us. More information we will update at our website and KLSF Facebook. Which webinar you are asking about? Do you mean the ECAVSF? All this webinar is not not compulsory. You can choose to sign up which one when you are available to join. If you really can't join the webinar during the specific time, you can watch back our webinar from Facebook live video. We conduct the webinar from Zoom, then we will stream it to Facebook live. It's just that the quiz, the speaker will open the access during the specific time. So if he say that okay, now is the end of the quiz, then you cannot participate in the quiz. So just that you need to present during the webinar to get the link to join the quiz. And any participants, do you still have any question? Okay, if there's no other question, we will end the workshop. Thank you again to Mr. Chiu and all the participants for attending these workshops.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so there's no other question. We will end here. Okay, thank you everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.